Vacations are meant for adventure and relaxation, but for some, they became deadly. From freak accidents to horrifying, unsolved mysteries, these stories are as disturbing as they are unforgettable. What went terribly wrong, and how could it happen to anyone? In this video, we explore the chilling tales of tourists who met tragic ends in the most unexpected ways. Get ready for 1 hour of most disturbing tourist deaths of all time. On April 7, 2019, Miriam Bielte arrived on the island of Koh Si Chang, Thailand. Miriam, a 26-year-old from Hildesheim, Germany, had been exploring Thailand, enjoying her vacation. She had taken a ferry from the city of Pattaya, seeking a peaceful day on the peaceful island. Unbeknownst to her, this destination would soon become the setting for a horrifying crime. Miriam rented a motorbike to explore the island. She rode around, taking in the scenic views, and eventually reached a historic stone monument, a popular tourist spot. As she wandered through the site, she was approached by Ranakorn Romruan, a 24-year-old local man who worked as a beach cleaner. Ranakorn, under the influence of methamphetamine, initiated a conversation with Miriam and soon began pestering her for inappropriate acts. When she refused, he followed her into a wooded area nearby. Desperate and frightened, Miriam tried to escape, but Ranakorn caught up with her. He pinned her to the ground and brutally took advantage of her. Miriam struggled, but her attacker was relentless. In a bid to silence her and prevent her from reporting the assault, Ranakorn picked up a large rock and began smashing her face. He hit her repeatedly, ensuring she was dead. The brutality of the attack left her with severe head wounds and a broken leg. After killing Miriam, Ranakorn attempted to hide her body. He dragged her to a secluded spot, partially covering her with leaves and rocks in a crude attempt to conceal her. He then fled the scene, returning to his home to wash his blood-stained clothes. Later that day, a local resident discovered Miriam's body. The scene was horrific. Her face was barely recognizable from the brutal assault. The island, usually a haven for tourists, was immediately sealed off by the police. The news of the gruesome murder spread quickly, shocking everyone in the small community and beyond. Police acted swiftly. They reviewed CCTV footage and interviewed witnesses, quickly identifying Ranakorn as the prime suspect. He was seen leaving the scene with blood on his clothes. A flower vendor who knew Ranakorn also reported seeing him covered in blood. The police tracked him to his home, where they found him calmly watching TV, smoking cigarettes and drinking beer. His blood-stained clothes were found hidden in his home. Ranakorn was arrested and taken into custody. During his interrogation, he confessed to the crime, admitting that he had raped and murdered Miriam while high on drugs. He showed no remorse, explaining that he had killed her to prevent her from reporting the crime. The following day, at a police conference in Chonburi province, Ranakorn reenacted the crime for the authorities. With a blue bag over his head, he demonstrated how he had used the rock to kill Miriam, leaving the onlookers in shock. Police Colonel Angkul Sarakul, speaking at the conference, confirmed the details of Ranakorn's confession. "This is how he did it. This is how he killed the tourist. He used a rock to hit her in the face," he said. The police charged Ranakorn with premeditated murder, rape, and concealing a body. He was detained at the Chonburi police station while officers prepared the legal paperwork for his court submission. Ranakorn's mother, 43-year-old Nongluk Fosang, visited him in prison the night of his arrest. She brought him some clothes and expressed her shock and sorrow over her son's actions. Speaking to reporters, she said, "My son and I didn't live together, so I didn't know much about what he usually did in the day. I only knew that he worked on a boat and collected rubbish from the beaches. He is a quiet guy who doesn't talk much. He likes to stay alone at home watching TV and listening to music, just like most of the guys. I deeply apologize to the girl's family on behalf of my son. I never thought that he could do anything like this. He deserves the full lawful punishment, and I am willing to accept the judge's decision." On July 11, 2019, just over 3 months after the murder, the Chonburi Provincial Court handed down its verdict. The court found Ranakorn guilty of premeditated murder, rape, drug use, and concealing a body. The nature of the crime was so severe that the court ruled no mitigation was possible. Ranakorn was sentenced to death. March 20, 2024, Ryan Joseph Ralph and his girlfriend Shona Morgan boarded an overnight train in Bangkok. They were excited, ready for their journey to Koh Tao Island, known as Death Island due to its notorious history. This trip was special for Ryan's 24th birthday. Shona, a 22-year-old from Northern Ireland, had flown to Thailand to celebrate with Ryan, who had been traveling there since February 17th. The train had old, outdated carriages with many lacking doors or barriers. A couple of hours into the journey, Ryan left Shona to rest while he went for a cigarette at the end of the carriage. Ryan reached the end of the carriage. Standing there with a cigarette in hand, he found himself at the open end of the carriage. where no door separated him from the tracks below. It was a precarious position, but Ryan was seeking a moment of solitude. He leaned out slightly, savoring the blend of the cool night air and the drifting cigarette smoke. Suddenly, the train jolted. Ryan lost his balance and fell from the open carriage. The train's speed and the rough ground caused him to be pulled briefly along the tracks. He tried to protect himself, but the force was too strong. The train continued on, unaware of the tragedy that had just occurred. The next day, March 21st, at Chet-Samian railway station in Ratchaburi province, a Cambodian rail worker named Michaela made a terrifying discovery. During his break, he often slept under the platform. This time, he saw a body lying in the dirt. At first, he thought it was someone sleeping. As he got closer, he realized the person wasn't breathing. Panicked, Michaela ran to inform his supervisor. The body was identified as Ryan Joseph Ralph. He was found shirtless, wearing brown shorts and a necklace. Severe injuries marked both of his legs. In his pocket, police found a wallet with various documents and Thai banknotes. From the preliminary investigation, there were no signs of assault. Police believed Ryan had been dead for at least 5 hours. Ryan's girlfriend, Shona, had woken up an hour after he left for his cigarette. She was immediately worried when she couldn't find him. She searched the train, her heart pounding, but there was no sign of Ryan. Desperate, she disembarked at the next station and reported him missing to the local police around 10:30 p.m. Authorities launched a search, using the GPS tracker on Ryan's phone to scour a 30-kilometer stretch of tracks from Klongbang Tan railway station to Ban Kluai railway station. Despite their efforts, they couldn't locate him that night. The following morning, Photharam police station officers received a report about a foreigner's body found under the platform at Chet-Samian railway station. When police arrived at the scene, they saw dried blood on the side of the platform in the gravel. In the gap under the platform, Ryan's body lay sprawled in the dirt. Nearby were his headphones, smartphone, and sandals. The area was poorly lit, and the platform was only about 50 centimeters from the train tracks, a dangerous proximity for any moving train. Ryan's body was taken to the Forensic Institute for a post-mortem examination. The details were sent to the Canadian Embassy to inform his relatives of his death. Shona was devastated. Her birthday celebration for Ryan had turned into a nightmare. She had come to Thailand to make happy memories, but instead she was left with the pain of losing her boyfriend in such a tragic way. The dream trip to Koh Tao Island, known for its beautiful beaches but also for its dark history, had ended in sorrow. It was December 10, 2023, in Medellin, Colombia. Tao Ger Xiong, a 50-year-old comedian and Hmong community activist from Minnesota, was on a trip he had taken many times before. Known for his humor and dedication to cultural diversity, Xiong loved Colombia. He often visited to enjoy the holidays and connect with friends, but this trip would be his last. Tu Ger Xiong was born in Laos in 1973. His family fled to Thailand as refugees when he was 2 years old. After 4 years in a refugee camp, they resettled in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1975. Xiong grew up in the Twin Cities, becoming a beloved figure in the Hmong community. He was the valedictorian of his class at Humboldt High School and graduated from Carleton College with a degree in political science. Known as America's only Hmong comedian, Xiong used his platform to celebrate cultural diversity and fight for justice. On that December evening, Xiong went out to meet a woman he had connected with on social media. They arranged to meet in a public place, a common practice in Medellin, known for both its beauty and its dangers. Xiong was cautious, but he couldn't have foreseen the horrific events that would follow. As the evening progressed, Xiong found himself surrounded by a group of men. They kidnapped him, tied him up, and took him to an apartment in the Robledo area of Medellin. The men took his credit card, cell phone, and wallet. They demanded a $2,000 ransom, approximately 8 million Colombian pesos. Xiong managed to call his brother A back in the United States. His voice was filled with fear as he relayed the kidnappers' demands. The family, desperate to save Xiong, quickly gathered the money and sent it to a woman's account as instructed by the kidnappers. But the payment did not secure his release. On December 11, 2023, Xiong's lifeless body was discovered in a wooded area. He had been brutally stabbed over a dozen times, suffered blunt force trauma to the head, and was thrown from a 60-foot height. The news of Xiong's death shocked the St. Paul community. Friends, family, and local officials expressed their grief and outrage. Xiong's family also released a statement, expressing their heartbreak and calling for justice. Authorities in Colombia acted swiftly. 3 adults and a teenager were arrested and charged with aggravated kidnapping for extortion and aggravated homicide. The suspects were identified as Charit Gisela Mejia Martinez, Santiago Bustamante Londono, and Andres Hincapié Obregón. All three denied the charges, but a 17-year-old had already confessed to his involvement in the crime. He was transferred to a special detention center for minors. The details of Xiong's final hours were harrowing. Held at gunpoint, tied up and stabbed repeatedly, he endured unimaginable terror. Despite the family's swift payment of the ransom, the kidnappers showed no mercy. The brutality of the crime shocked everyone who knew him. Xiong's memorial service was held over 3 days in accordance with Hmong tradition. Hundreds of mourners gathered to say their goodbyes. His brother A spoke about Xiong's deep love for his community and his unwavering spirit in fighting for justice. "It's sad, my family is sad," he said, "but we are glad that we can finally put closure to his life here and then move beyond this point." At the funeral, friends and family remembered Xiong for his humor, kindness, and dedication. He had given over 1,600 presentations across 48 states, spreading laughter and cultural awareness. Xiong's impact extended far beyond Minnesota. He was known for his activism, particularly in the Hmong community. He had organized protests, such as in 2007, when he called for justice after a white man killed a Hmong hunter in Wisconsin. In 2021, he supported a rally for a Hmong man killed by law enforcement in California. He also helped build solidarity between the Hmong community and the Black Lives Matter movement. U.S. Senators Tina Smith and Amy Klobuchar both expressed their condolences and assured the public that their offices were working with authorities to ensure justice for Xiong. In the wake of Xiong's death, his family announced plans to establish a foundation in his name. The foundation would continue Xiong's work in promoting cultural diversity and social justice. As the investigation continued, the community rallied together, sharing stories and memories of Xiong. His life, though tragically cut short, had left a mark on everyone he met. His ability to bring people together through humor and storytelling was unmatched. On October 19, 2023, Gregory Stewart Owens, a 59-year-old retired UPS driver from Chattanooga, Tennessee, was celebrating his birthday in Cartagena, Colombia. Owens had chosen to spend his special day in this city. However, the evening took a tragic turn when he became the victim of a violent robbery that cost him his life. Near Cartagena's town center, 2 men approached Owens, targeting a valuable gold chain he wore. Security footage showed Owens resisting with all his strength to keep his cherished necklace. The situation escalated, and Owens tried to flee, but the robbers shot him in the head and chest. Severely injured, he was rushed to a nearby hospital but succumbed to his injuries a few hours later. The news of his death spread quickly, overshadowing what should have been a joyous occasion. In the days following the incident, the Colombian National Police, with help from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and local law enforcement, launched an intensive investigation. On November 4th, they arrested 3 suspects: Juan Camilo Valoyes, known as El Cabe, Wilmer Flores, known as Chatara, and David Jr. Perez, known as El Jr. These men were charged with aggravated homicide, illegal firearm activities, robbery, and receipt of stolen property. Days later, Colombian law enforcement arrested a 4th unnamed suspect. Gregory Owens' family in Chattanooga was devastated by the news. His sister, Deborah Wortham, spoke fondly of him, saying, "He was good to his neighbors, his community, and anyone who met him. He had many friends and was a loving, giving person who will be truly missed by all of us." Bringing Owens' body back to the United States was a significant challenge. His family faced numerous bureaucratic problems and logistical issues. A family member had to travel to Colombia to identify his body, and Owens' bilingual wife played a crucial role in translating long-distance calls. Tennessee U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn, Tennessee 3rd District Congressman Chuck Fleischman, and the U.S. Embassy in Colombia assisted in expediting the process. After 2 long weeks, Owens' body was finally returned to Chattanooga. A balloon release was held in Owens' honor, with family members, friends, and former co-workers gathering to pay tribute. His son, Corey Owens, expressed gratitude for the support and condolences from the citizens of Cartagena. Despite the tragic circumstances, Corey acknowledged the kindness and sympathy shown by the local community. Gregory Owens' impact was felt not only in his hometown, but also in Cartagena, where he had made a positive difference in the lives of a local family. Owens' former co-worker, Conley Mercer, shared how Owens had taken a local family under his wing, providing them with food and support. On November 11th, a memorial service was held for Gregory Owens at Mount Canaan Baptist Church, where family and friends gathered to celebrate his life and mourn his loss. The eulogy was delivered by Pastor Sandra Faye Wilkes, one of Owens' sisters. While the suspects were in custody, the Owens family felt that the potential punishment for the men responsible for Gregory's death was insufficient. They decided to file a lawsuit against the Colombian government, arguing that more should have been done to prevent the tragedy. Legal experts explained that seeking justice would be a lengthy and resource-intensive process. The Owens family remained firm in their pursuit of justice. Despite the challenges ahead, they were determined to hold those responsible accountable for their actions. The support from their community, both in Chattanooga and in Cartagena, provided them with strength and comfort during this difficult time. As the investigation continued, more details emerged. A fifth suspect was arrested, bringing the total number of individuals in custody to 5. All 5 men maintained their innocence despite being offered plea deals. If found guilty, they faced a maximum sentence of 33 years in prison. The family's legal battle was not just about seeking justice for Gregory Owens. It was also about preventing other families from experiencing similar tragedies. Andre Massengil, a former co-worker of Owens, emphasized this point, saying, "We do not want another American family to go through what we've had to endure. This is what our fight is about." It was October 17, 2022, in the Belen Los Alpes neighborhood of Medellin, Colombia. Nicholas Vincent Flatts, a 56-year-old from Springfield, Massachusetts, was an avid traveler and runner. He had rented an apartment there on September 22, 2022. Nicholas had visited Medellin before in 2018 and 2021, and his social media was filled with images from his trips to Colombia, Mexico, and Brazil. Neighbors knew Nicholas as friendly and sociable. By the second week of October, they noticed something odd. Nicholas hadn't been seen for several days. Calls to his phone went unanswered, and a foul odor began to emanate from his apartment, growing stronger each day. On October 17th, around 5:15 p.m., concerned neighbors decided to check on Nicholas. They knocked on his door but received no response. The smell was overwhelming. With no other choice, they forced their way into his 5th-floor apartment. They found Nicholas lying on his bed, lifeless and decomposing. The neighbors immediately called the police. Nicholas Vincent Flatts was an American citizen born in Boston, Massachusetts, but he had lived in Springfield for many years. His social media profiles showcased his love for travel and running. Friends and family were used to seeing regular updates from him, documenting his adventures. Nicholas had a routine of updating his social media and staying in touch with his loved ones. His sudden silence was out of character. Concern grew among his friends back home when they couldn't reach him. Calls and messages went unanswered. As days passed, worry turned into alarm, leading his neighbors in Medellin to take action. When the police entered the apartment, they were met with a terrifying scene. The body of Nicholas Flatts was on his bed, and the smell indicated he had been dead for several days. The officers conducted a thorough search of the apartment, but found no signs of violence or forced entry. Everything appeared normal, except for the tragic discovery. The authorities transported Nicholas's body to the morgue for an autopsy. The results were crucial in determining the cause of his death. The initial lack of visible injuries left many questions unanswered. What could have led to the sudden death of a seemingly healthy man who was known for his active lifestyle? As news of Nicholas's death spread, it sent shockwaves through the expatriate community in Medellin and among his friends and family in the United States. Nicholas was the 27th foreigner to die in the Abura Valley that year, with 25 of those deaths occurring in Medellin. This statistic highlighted a concerning trend that local authorities were keen to address. In recent months, Medellin has seen an increase in crimes targeting foreigners. Criminals often used apps like Tinder to lure their victims. Just a few months prior, the Abura Valley Metropolitan Police had arrested 5 individuals, 3 women and 2 men, suspected of being part of a gang that targeted and extorted foreigners. These arrests were part of a broader effort by the police, the district attorney's office, and the mayor's office to crack down on such crimes. While there was no immediate evidence linking Nicholas's death to foul play, the authorities couldn't rule out any possibilities until the autopsy results were in. The case of Nicholas Flatts drew significant media attention, with local and international outlets reporting on the mysterious circumstances surrounding his death. As the investigation continued, the focus shifted to the autopsy. The medical examiners needed to determine if Nicholas had died of natural causes, an accident, or something more sinister? The absence of visible injuries complicated the case, making the autopsy the key to unlocking the mystery. In the weeks following Nicholas's death, the authorities kept a close watch on the situation. They were determined to provide answers to his family and ensure the safety of other foreign visitors. Nicholas's family, devastated by the news, awaited the results of the autopsy with heavy hearts. They remembered him as a loving and adventurous spirit who embraced life to the fullest. His frequent travels and active lifestyle were proof that he lived a good life. Now they needed to know what had taken him from them so suddenly.
July 2024, Carlos Luna, a 43-year-old from Ejea de los Caballeros, near Zaragoza, Spain, embarked on a journey to South Africa's Pilanesberg National Park. Joined by his fiancée and two of her female friends who lived in Johannesburg, Carlos sought the thrill of close encounters with nature. This experience tragically ended in a terrifying disaster. On Sunday, July 7th, 2024, Carlos Luna, his fiancée and their friends entered Pilanesberg National Park through the Bagasia Gate. Pilanesberg is a famous sanctuary with some of nature's most magnificent creatures in an ancient volcanic crater. The park is a natural habitat for Africa's so-called Big Five: elephant, buffalo, lion, leopard, and rhino. The group was in high spirits. They had cameras, so they took pictures of the wildlife and the landscape as they drove through the park. Soon after they entered the park, though, they spotted something that encouraged 43-year-old Carlos Luna to make a reckless decision. The group spotted a breeding herd of elephants by a lake, 3 adults and 3 calves. It was an awe-inspiring sight, enough that Carlos left their vehicle's safety, wanting to capture some up-close pictures of the herd. By doing so, he actively disregarded the park's guidelines, which state that tourists must remain in their vehicles to ensure their safety and that of wildlife. But not everyone supported the man's decision. His fiancée and her 2 friends tried to get Carlos back to safety. They pleaded with him, asking him over and over again to abandon his plan. But Carlos's decision was final. With his camera in his hands, the man approached the towering animals. He ventured closer and closer, possibly hoping to take the picture of a lifetime. The herd was impressive. It consisted of a massive 3.5-ton female elephant, the leader of the group, 2 adult male elephants, and 3 calves. The animals were calm initially, probably unaware of the approaching human. However, that changed almost instantly as soon as the matriarch, the female elephant who led the group, sensed Carlos approaching. She was spooked. Elephants are fiercely protective of their young, and any perceived threat can provoke a violent response. The matriarch charged at Carlos, driven by instinct to protect her family. Carlos was overcome by panic. The 2 other adult males joined the charge. It was a terrifying sight, made even worse by the animal's sheer size. Carlos knew he was in grave danger. As such, he turned and started to run, his camera still in his hands. He had to make it back to the vehicle. Meanwhile, his fiancée and her friends watched in horror. They could do nothing but scream as the angry elephants closed in. It all happened in a flash. The elephants overtook Carlos, knocking him down and trampling him into the earth. 30 seconds. That's all it took for 43-year-old Carlos Luna to find his gruesome end. The attack left behind a horrifying sight: blood-soaked clothing, and the remnants of Carlos Luna's body, crushed beyond recognition. After the attack, the herd left peacefully, and their perceived threat disappeared. Park officials were alerted by the frantic witnesses. They rushed to the site, but they knew nothing could be gone. Carlos's fiancée and friends were left in a state of pure shock, requiring immediate counseling to cope with the trauma. A female elephant can stand over 11 feet tall, weigh up to 4 tons, and run up to 25 miles per hour. Bull elephants are even more prominent, reaching up to 13 feet in height and weighing as much as 6 tons. Carlos Luna never stood a chance against the herd. Following the incident, the Northwest Parks and Tourism Board conveyed their sincere condolences to Carlos's family and underlined the significance of following safety procedures. Peter Nell, the acting chief conservation officer, emphasized that these rules are in place to safeguard both visitors and animals, and that this occurrence should serve as a clear reminder of the possible consequences of disobeying them. It was October 3rd, 2022. Jörg Schnarr, a 67-year-old retired human resources director from Fulda, Germany, had just begun his holiday with his wife Vera and their close friends, Rainer and Andrea Nuchter. The couple planned to go on their dream safari in South Africa. The group had landed in Johannesburg earlier that day and were eagerly driving towards the Kruger National Park for a luxurious stay at Madluli Lodge, but they never made it to their accommodation. Kruger National Park is one of Africa's largest game reserves and a famous wildlife sanctuary. The park is home to the Big Five, and people worldwide come to see its iconic species, such as lions, buffaloes, leopards, elephants, and rhinos. When it happened, Yoerg, his wife, and his friends were just 25 miles from the park's main gate. Their dream vacation was shattered before it even began. The friends were traveling through the farming village of Whitewater, in Mpumalanga province, with Yoerg at the wheel, when a car swerved in front of their vehicle, blocking their path and preventing them from making it to the safety of the park. Inside the car were 3 armed men who wanted to rob Yoerg's group. They ordered Yoerg to stop the vehicle. They wanted everyone to step out, but 67-year-old Yoerg Schnar refused to stop the car. Instead, he decided to defy the 3 gunmen, probably meaning to protect his loved ones. Yoerg locked the doors and started to reverse. It was a decision that would cost him his life. But as he did so, one of the gunmen opened fire, shooting Yoerg at point-blank range through the window. The bullet lodged itself in Yoerg Schnar's upper body. The vehicle veered out of control, careening backward for some 330 feet before crashing into the wall of a local school. Yoerg's wife and friends were in shock, fearing for their lives, but the attackers fled the scene empty-handed. Paramedics and police arrived swiftly, but it was too late. Yoerg was beyond saving. He was found slumped over the wheel, having died almost instantly from the fatal gunshot wound. The South African Police Service launched an immediate search for the 3 suspects. The Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency offered complete trauma counseling to help the survivors cope with the horrific experience. The organization called the shooting an act of sabotage against the travel and tourism sector and offered a £500 reward for information leading to the murderer's capture. Police found one of the suspects in possession of the white Toyota Taz automobile used in the gruesome murder. The suspects are thought to be connected to a series of business robberies in the area. Joseph Nyalunga, 35, Marshall Tsibo Mamba, 38, and Bonga Musa Fortune Matsani, 25, face charges of murder, attempted murder, and attempted hijacking. Their case has been transferred to the Mbombela High Court for trial. The trial is set for 2024. The attack has not only claimed the life of a beloved husband and friend, but has also cast a shadow over the reputation of the Kruger National Park, a haven for wildlife enthusiasts.
It was May 2, 2024, when South Korean tourist Roh Yui-jong was last seen at a nightclub in Bangkok's bustling Royal City Avenue, RCA district. The 34-year-old, known for his frequent visits to Thailand and his Thai wife, was enjoying the vibrant nightlife when everything took a dark turn. By the next day, Roh had vanished, setting off a chain of events that led to a gruesome discovery and an international manhunt. Roh had arrived in Thailand on April 30th, planning to stay until May 13th. However, his plans were violently disrupted. On May 7th, Roh's mother received a chilling call from an unknown number. The caller demanded 3 million baht, or approximately $100,000, in exchange for Roh's life, claiming he had drowned their drugs. Terrified, she contacted the South Korean embassy in Thailand, which then alerted Thai authorities. Roh's wife, who had last seen him at the nightclub, provided critical information. Surveillance footage revealed Roh leaving the club around 2 a.m. on May 2nd with 2 men. The men were seen guiding Roh into a rented car, a gray Honda City which headed towards Pattaya. This was the last known sighting of Roh alive. By May 4th, Roh's captors had checked into a rented accommodation near the Mabprachon Reservoir in Pattaya. Surveillance footage showed them purchasing a black plastic barrel and ropes. Around 9 p.m. that night, a pickup truck covered with a black cloth left the accommodation, returning an hour later without its ominous cargo. This footage, combined with the ransom call, painted a grim picture for the investigators. On May 11th, police divers searched the Mabprachon Reservoir and discovered a black plastic barrel weighted down with cement. Inside, they found a man's body. Preliminary identification suggested it was Roh, but confirmation would come later through DNA comparison with samples from his family. The investigation intensified. By May 9th, one suspect had fled Thailand, and another was later arrested in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. The third suspect was believed to have crossed into Myanmar illegally. Thai and South Korean police worked tirelessly to track them down. On May 14th, DNA results confirmed the body was indeed Roh Yui-jong. His 10 fingers had been cut off, presumably to prevent fingerprint identification. Despite this brutal attempt to conceal his identity, the DNA match with his father and sister left no doubt. The suspects, identified as Lee Roon, Lee Yong-jin, and Kim Hyung-won, were now the focus of an international manhunt. Lee Roon was captured in Jeongo City, South Korea on May 12th. Lee Yong-jin was arrested in Phnom Penh on May 14th. The third suspect, Kim Hyung-won, was believed to have fled to war-torn Myanmar. The case revealed that Roh had been lured into a criminal scheme involving a haircut and massage business that may have had illicit activities. However, it was unclear if he had invested in this venture. His friend insisted that Rowe was never involved in drug abuse, suggesting he had been deceived by the gang. Police reconstructed the timeline carefully. Rowe had been abducted from RCA, transported to Pattaya, and held at the rented accommodation. The suspects purchased the materials to dispose of his body, eventually dumping it in the reservoir. This careful planning and execution pointed to a premeditated crime, likely driven by financial motives. The international aspect of the case complicated the investigation. Coordination between Thai, South Korean, and Cambodian authorities was crucial. Extradition processes were initiated to bring the suspects back to Thailand to face justice. Interpol red notices were issued for the suspects, ensuring they would be apprehended if they attempted to enter other countries. Despite the arrest, the motive behind Rowe's murder remained unclear. The suspects faced charges of premeditated murder, illegal detention, and concealing a body. Thai police continued to gather evidence, including testimonies from witnesses and CCTV footage, to build a robust case. The discovery of Rowe's body in such a gruesome manner shocked both Thailand and South Korea. It highlighted the dangers of falling into the traps set by criminal gangs and the extreme measures these criminals would take to cover their tracks. The case also underscored the importance of international cooperation in solving crimes that cross borders. It was a warm day in June 2012 when Audrey and Nomi Belanger checked into the Phi Phi Palm Residence Hotel on the stunning Phi Phi Islands in Thailand. Audrey, 20, and Nomi, 26, were from Pohenegamuk, a small rural town in Quebec, Canada, known for its close-knit community and beautiful landscapes. They were well-loved in their hometown, always active in community events, and known for their friendly and vibrant personalities. The sisters had gone on this trip as a well-deserved break from their university studies at Université Laval. Both were excited to explore the exotic locales and vibrant nightlife of Thailand. They arrived at the Phi Phi Islands, a popular destination for young tourists seeking adventure and relaxation, on Tuesday, June 12, 2012. After checking into their hotel, Audrey and Nomi went out for the evening and returned to their room that same night. The next day, June 13th, they remained in their room the entire day. Hotel staff noticed that they didn't leave their room at all, but didn't think much of it initially. However, by Thursday, June 14th, a hotel maid grew concerned when the sisters didn't respond to her knocks. Believing they needed more rest, she left. But when she tried again that evening and received no response, she used a master key to enter the room. What she found was horrifying. The sisters were lying motionless in their beds, covered in vomit, with their fingernails and toenails a discolored blue. They had skin lesions and were bleeding from their gums. The hotel quickly alerted the local police, and an investigation was launched immediately. The initial investigation by Thai authorities revealed no signs of a struggle or robbery. There were various over-the-counter drugs found in the room, including ibuprofen, but nothing seemed out of place. The local police speculated that the sisters might have succumbed to food poisoning, possibly from blowfish or poisonous mushrooms, both known to be highly toxic if not prepared properly. However, this theory did not fully align with the symptoms observed. Dr. Komkrit Pukrityakame, the director of Krabi Hospital, conducted a preliminary examination and also suspected poisoning, but the exact source remained elusive. The sisters' bodies were then sent to Bangkok for a more thorough autopsy, which only added to the mystery. As the investigation progressed, a new and chilling theory emerged. In 2009, two women, an American and a Norwegian, had died under similar mysterious circumstances at the same resort. They had exhibited severe vomiting and dehydration, but the cause of death was never determined. This led some to believe that there might be a common factor at play. A joint investigation by CBC's The Fifth Estate and Radio Canada's Enquête uncovered disturbing evidence pointing towards a highly toxic pesticide called aluminum phosphide, commonly used in some holiday hotels in Asia to control bedbugs. This pesticide, when exposed to air and moisture, releases a poisonous gas called phosphine, which is deadly to humans in high concentrations. Dr. Pasakorn Akarasewi, with Thailand's Ministry of Health, admitted that acute intoxication from a chemical in the pesticide group was a likely explanation for the sisters' deaths. This pesticide is strictly regulated in Canada, but its use in Thailand, particularly in hotels, is not as tightly controlled, despite official prohibitions. Despite these findings, the exact cause of death remained undetermined for a long time. The initial autopsies conducted in Bangkok 4 days after the deaths showed no traces of violence or trauma, but both sisters had been vomiting heavily. Thai pathologists concluded that insect repellent DEET might have been responsible, but Canadian coroner René Roussel later disagreed, stating that the concentration of DEET found was not toxic. Roussel's final report, released after extensive testing and investigation, pointed towards phosphine gas as the probable cause of death. This conclusion was supported by similar cases in Alberta, Canada, where 2 children had died from exposure to phosphine gas used to control bedbugs. Back in Pohenegamuk, the news of Audrey and Nomi's deaths shocked the people. The sisters were well known and loved by everyone in the town. The deaths of Audrey and Nomi Belanger remain a tragic mystery. While the theory of phosphine gas poisoning is compelling, it has never been conclusively proven. The circumstances of their deaths bear eerie similarities to other unexplained fatalities on Phi Phi Island and elsewhere in Thailand, suggesting a possible pattern of toxic exposure in tourist accommodations. Around 11:30 a.m. on August 3, 2021, 57-year-old Nicole Sauvain-Weiskopf was last seen on CCTV footage walking alone past Ao Yan Beach in Phuket, Thailand. The footage showed her heading towards the Ao Yan waterfall, a popular but secluded spot on the island. Nicole, a Swiss national, was the deputy protocol chief of the Federal Assembly of Switzerland and had arrived in Phuket on July 13th as part of the Phuket Sandbox program, which allowed vaccinated tourists to visit without quarantine. At 1:30 p.m. on August 5th, 2 days after she was last seen, local authorities received a report of a body discovered near the Ao Yan waterfall. The body, found face down in a rock crevice and covered with a black sheet, was soon identified as Nicole Sauvain-Weiskopf. The discovery was made by a local resident who was passing through the area. The scene was horrifying. Nicole's body was partially clothed, wearing only a t-shirt and a jacket. Nearby, police found her blue sports shoes, a black backpack, underwear, and her phone. The initial examination by police and medical examiners suggested that she had been dead for at least 48 hours, and there were signs of sexual assault. This shocking discovery prompted a swift response from local authorities. Security on the island was heightened as officials sought to reassure tourists and residents alike. Thai Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-o-cha expressed his condolences to Nicole's family and urged the police to expedite the investigation. Phuket's regional police commander, Kittirath Phanpech, emphasized the suspicious nature of the death. Deputy Inspector General Wudachai Chanfai added that the location of the waterfall was remote and typically only known to locals or experts. The investigation quickly focused on CCTV footage and other forensic evidence. Within days, police arrested 27-year-old Tirawat Thothip, a local man living in Phuket. Thothip, who was unemployed due to the pandemic, confessed to the crime during a police press conference. Tirawat explained that on August 3rd, he had gone into the forest near the waterfall to search for wild orchids to sell. As he was leaving the area, he saw Nicole sitting by the waterfall, dipping her feet in the water. Tirawat admitted that the sight of Nicole aroused him, and he decided to approach her with the intent to take advantage of her. He described how he grabbed Nicole from behind, placing her in a chokehold. Nicole struggled and tried to call for help, but Tirawat pushed her head under the water to silence her. He held her there until she stopped moving. Afterward, he dragged her body to the shore, removed her shorts and underwear, but then lost his sexual desire upon seeing her lifeless body. In a panic, he covered her with a black plastic sheet he found nearby and took 300 baht, approximately 6 pounds, from her backpack before leaving the scene. Tirawat's confession matched the evidence found at the scene and the timeline established by the CCTV footage. The footage had shown Tirawat arriving at the waterfall on his red motorbike at around 10:01 a.m. and leaving at 1:06 p.m., roughly the time Nicole was last seen alive. In the days following the discovery of Nicole's body, Thai authorities held a memorial service at Dusit Thani Laguna in Phuket. Phuket Governor Narong Woon-Chew spoke at the vigil, expressing the community's grief and their commitment to ensuring the safety of tourists. Swiss embassy officials and local residents joined in laying flowers in Nicole's memory. On August 7, 2021, Tirawat was officially charged with murder and robbery causing death. The case moved swiftly through the Thai judicial system. On March 14, 2022, the Phuket Provincial Court sentenced Tirawat to death for the murder of Nicole Sauvain-Weiskopf. However, considering his full confession and cooperation with the police, his sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. The court's judgment was watched online by Nicole's husband and son from Switzerland. They expressed their gratitude to the Thai police and judicial system for bringing the killer to justice. Despite the tragedy, the Phuket Sandbox program continued, as it was crucial for Thailand's recovering tourism industry, which had been severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The program, which began in July 2021, had brought in significant revenue and saw a steady flow of tourists from various countries. It was November 9, 2022, in Medellin, Colombia. Paul Nguyen, a 27-year-old Californian, was on vacation with a friend. Paul was adventurous and loved to travel. He was also known for his friendly and sociable nature. This trip was supposed to be another exciting adventure in his life, but it ended in tragedy. Paul was a logistics consultant and a digital nomad. He had chosen Medellin for its vibrant nightlife and friendly atmosphere for remote workers. He was also excited about an upcoming Bad Bunny concert. While in Medellin, he decided to try Tinder to meet new people. He matched with a woman named Evelyn Henao Herrera and agreed to meet her. On November 9th, Paul and Evelyn met at a bar in the El Poblado neighborhood, an area known for its trendy cafes and nightlife. Paul sent a Snapchat photo of Evelyn to his friends, captioning it with "The language barrier is unreal." That was the last time anyone heard from him. Around 2 a.m., Paul was seen leaving the bar with Evelyn. 2 hours later, his credit cards were used at various locations, including a pharmacy. A cashier at the pharmacy noted that the person using the card was not Asian. Concern grew when Paul didn't return to the Airbnb he shared with his friend. By morning, Paul's body was found near a dumpster in the Robledo neighborhood, about 5 miles from where he was last seen. Paul's sister, Amy Nguyen, was devastated. She described him as her protector and a constant source of support. Amy quickly set up a GoFundMe page to raise funds to bring Paul's body back home and cover funeral expenses. She wrote about the cruel and senseless nature of his death, expressing her grief and frustration. The GoFundMe raised $36,015, far exceeding the initial goal of $15,000. The investigation revealed that Paul had been drugged with clonazepam, a sedative, and robbed. Colombian authorities believe that Evelyn, along with 2 accomplices, Cesar Augusto Mendoza Lopez and Brian Taborda Herrera, were part of a gang targeting tourists through dating apps. This gang used tranquilizers to subdue their victims before robbing them. Paul's case wasn't unique. Medellin had seen a rise in similar crimes. Foreign tourists were often targeted through dating apps, drugged, and then robbed. Clonazepam and other benzodiazepines were commonly used because they were easy to obtain and highly effective in incapacitating victims. Amy Nguyen and her family worked tirelessly to seek justice for Paul. They hired a private investigator, Jorge Wilson, to assist in the investigation. Jorge explained that these crimes were usually carried out by small organized groups. He noted that synthetic drugs like clonazepam had become the drugs of choice for these gangs, as they were more predictable than traditional drugs like scopolamine. On April 4, 2023, Colombian authorities announced the arrest of Evelyn Henao Herrera and her accomplices. They were charged with aggravated homicide, robbery, and conspiracy. This arrest brought a small measure of relief to Paul's family. Amy expressed her hope for justice and thanked everyone who had supported their efforts. It was October 31, 2023, in Medellin, Colombia. Johnny Jerome, a 45-year-old American from New York, was found dead in his hotel room at the Provenza Lofts in the El Poblado neighborhood. He was in Medellin to celebrate his birthday with his cousin. But this joyous celebration turned into a tragic mystery. Johnny was born in 1978 to Pierre Jerome and Marie Blanc. He grew up attending private school and church regularly, developing a strong faith in God. A successful businessman and a gifted music producer, Johnny's career as a manager of operations showcased his leadership and tech-savvy skills. Despite climbing the corporate ladder to become an executive, his true passion lay in music. He was dedicated to building a business around his love for music, blending his talent and drive to create something remarkable. Johnny arrived in Medellin on October 29, 2023, just 2 days before his death. He was there to celebrate his birthday and had planned a night out with his cousin. On the evening of October 30th, they went out to a local nightclub to enjoy the nightlife. They partied until the early hours of October 31st. Around 3:30 a.m., Johnny and his cousin returned to their luxury suite at the Provenza Lofts, accompanied by 2 women they had met at the club. The women left around 5 a.m., and Johnny went to sleep while his cousin stayed up for a while, having a drink in the living room. When Johnny's cousin woke up several hours later, he found Johnny's lifeless body in the suite's jacuzzi. The water was overflowing and the scene was tragic. Johnny's cousin immediately sought help from the hotel staff, who tried to resuscitate him, but it was too late. Johnny was gone. The news of Johnny's death spread quickly. Lieutenant Colonel Eddie Sanchez of the Medellin Metropolitan Police confirmed that the case was under active investigation. He stated, "We are in a verification process. An interdisciplinary team is already working on it, and I cannot say more about the event." The authorities had a challenging task ahead as they tried to piece together what had happened that night. Preliminary reports suggested that Johnny had been celebrating his birthday and returned to his hotel room after a night of partying. The two women who had accompanied him and his cousin to the suite left early in the morning, and it was uncertain if they were connected to Johnny's death. The authorities were investigating the possibility of an overdose involving hallucinogenic substances combined with alcohol, as no apparent signs of violence were found on Johnny's body. Johnny's death left his family and friends devastated. He was a beloved son, brother, uncle, and friend who always cared deeply for those he loved. His absence created a blank space in their lives that could never be filled. The authorities continued their investigation, trying to uncover the truth behind his mysterious death. As the investigation unfolded, several questions remained unanswered. What exactly happened in the hours leading up to Johnny's death? Were the two women who accompanied him and his cousin involved? Was it a case of an accidental overdose, or was there something more sinister at play? The Provenza Lofts, where Johnny's body was found, is a luxury hotel in the El Poblado neighborhood, known for its business and commercial activities. The hotel staff cooperated fully with the authorities, providing them with any information that could help solve the case. They were as shocked as everyone else by the tragic event. Johnny's cousin, who was with him that night, was also a crucial part of the investigation. He provided his account of the night's events, detailing their activities and the people they encountered. The authorities were working tirelessly to verify his statements and find any inconsistencies or new leads. The possibility of an overdose was being closely examined. The authorities were looking into the substances found at the scene and any potential sources. They were also investigating whether Johnny had any pre-existing medical conditions that could have contributed to his death. Toxicology reports were awaited to provide more clarity on the substances in his system. While the investigation was ongoing, Johnny's family had to deal with the heartbreaking task of bringing his body back to the United States. They were in contact with the U.S. Embassy in Colombia, which was assisting them in the process. The family also had to prepare for his funeral, a painful event that no one had expected to happen so soon. Johnny's death on his birthday added a layer of tragedy to an already heartbreaking event. His family and friends were left with an overwhelming sense of loss and unanswered questions. They remembered him as a man full of life, with a passion for music and a deep love for his family.
July 27, 2019, Ivan Ivanov, an esteemed agricultural expert, embarked on a business trip to Cape Town. After days of diligent work, Ivan spent that Saturday exploring Cape Town's breathtaking natural landscapes. Eager to experience the beauty of South Africa, he set out on a hike, unaware of the looming danger. Ivan hoped to make the most of his trip, but tragically, he never returned to safety. The simple hike that was meant to be a peaceful escape turned into a haunting nightmare, forever marking his final journey. At 44 years old, Ivan was a family man. His wife and kids, however, did not accompany him on his hike. On that fateful morning, Ivan set off alone, looking forward to enjoying the natural beauty of the East Fort hiking trail, Chapman's Peak Drive. The route is generally considered challenging, but famous for hiking, running, and walking. Those who want solitude can also enjoy the hike during the quieter times of the day. It is one of the most scenic hikes around Cape Town, so it's no surprise Ivan had chosen it as his destination for the day. Ivan carried some personal items: a BlackBerry cell phone, cash, a green cloak, a first aid kit, and some food, such as biltong and prunes. He also had a bottle of water and other small belongings. Unbeknownst to him, those few insignificant items would seal his fate. Ivan wasn't aware of the dangers lurking in the shadows of the trail. Earlier that day, just moments before Ivan started his hike, a couple walking their dog on the trail saw something that made them hide. They saw three armed men who looked like trouble. It is possible that hiding saved the couple's life, but Ivan Ivanov wasn't so lucky. Sinaem Poselwa, Matthew Guillot, and Franklin Isaacs were waiting in the shadows of the trail. The trio had a simple plan. They decided to ambush any hiker who came that way and rob them of their possessions. The three men had knives, which they were to use on any victim who resisted the robbery. And then, they found their perfect victim. Ivan Ivanov was enjoying his hike, still close to the parking lot. He was walking peacefully, even though his family had asked him to reconsider his decision to hike in South Africa, believing it was a dangerous place, especially for a tourist. But Ivan was a self-confident man. He wanted to spend the weekend hiking, especially since he liked Cape Town nature very much. As Ivan hiked, He walked past the bushes where Sinaye Mposelwa, Matthew Gio, and Franklin Isaacs hid. The men left their hiding spot and demanded Ivan give them his belongings. When Ivan refused, they struck. Their attack was brutal. Ivan was stabbed mercilessly 11 times in his back and chest. The three men then ran away, covered in Ivan's blood. The three men stole his belongings and fled the scene. The couple walking their dog and witnessing the attacker's erratic behavior were the first to raise the alarm. Authorities quickly arrived at the scene, but nothing could be done for Ivan Ivanov, who succumbed to his multiple penetrating wounds. Soon after, two men found Sinaye Mposelwa, one of the attackers, covered in blood. The men handed Mposelwa to the police. Mposelwa was linked to the crime when the blood on his clothes was found to be Ivan's. Even more, the man had some of Ivan's belongings on him. Sinaye Mposelwa admitted his role in the murder, although he refused to testify against his accomplices, citing threats from a prison gang. In August 2023, Mposelwa was sentenced to 25 years in prison for the murder and an additional 10 years for the aggravated robbery. The court showed leniency because of Mposelwa's difficult personal circumstances and because the man showed remorse. Matthew Gio and Franklin Isaacs, the other two attackers, have pleaded not guilty. The trial continues as Cape Town locals ask for increased measures to protect tourists and local. 2023. Ka Hao Teo, a 40-year-old consultant trauma and orthopedic surgeon from the UK, was on a dream vacation with his wife, Sarah, his mother, Aina, and his young son, 2-year-old Hugo, in South Africa. The happy family spent that Thursday whale watching in Hermanus and viewing penguins at Betty's Bay. But what started as a beautiful day soon became a dark nightmare that changed their lives forever. After a fantastic day observing the natural wonders of South Africa, the Teo family set off back to Cape Town, but they came to a dead end when they got closer to the city. Directed by police, they were unwittingly led into the heart of a violent minibus taxi strike near the township of Nyanga. The driver, Ka Hao, was told to follow a white car ahead, and so he did, unaware that they were rushing towards an awful fate. The family noticed signs of unrest as they drove through the area. Car wheels were scattered everywhere, and pedestrians walked about uneasily. When they drove past a burnt-out bus, they knew something was wrong, but the bus was merely a sign of the terror to come. A man emerged from the crowd of protesters and approached their vehicle. It all happened so fast. The man didn't even stop as he pulled out his gun and fired, a single shot shattering the car's window and striking Ka Hao Teo in the head. Horrified, Ka Hao's mother, Aina, grabbed the steering wheel, desperately attempting to regain control of the Toyota RAV4. Some nearby locals rushed to the family's help, and together they managed to bring the car to a halt. Despite his wound, Ka Hao was still alive. Struggling to breathe, his family was terrified. A man, who had also been directed into Nyanga by the police, approached them. He told Sarah, Ka Hao's wife, that he'd seen the shooter and wanted to help, but he feared he'd be arrested. The man told Sarah to apply pressure on her husband's wound, hoping to buy him some time until help arrived. Except help never arrived, even though the family's car was now stopped near a police station. There were about 6 police officers at the scene, but according to Ka Hao's family, their attitude was baffling. The officers asked about what happened, but they did not move to help, as the family begged them to take Ka Hao to the hospital. According to the Teo family, the police officers stood around chatting as Ka Hao died slowly. The family pleaded with the police, fearing the worst. Sarah and Aina told them Ka Hao was a medic who saved lives, but this was not enough to make the officers agree to help. But with every passing minute, hope dwindled. An hour later, an ambulance finally arrived, but it was too late. Ka Hao Teo had died. According to his family, the police continued to fail them. They were merely instructed to visit the morgue the next day to identify Ka Hao's body, and then dismissed without further assistance. According to the family, the paramedics were the only ones who helped them and showed them empathy. The paramedics also contacted the British Embassy on the family's behalf. The South African Police Service acknowledged the family's right to file complaints, but refrained from addressing the allegations. No arrests have been made, and the family's plea for witnesses to come forward hangs in the air. Ka Hao Teo's death left a void not only in the hearts of his loved ones, but also in the medical community. His colleagues at Princess Alexandra Hospital in Harlow, Essex, remembered him as a dedicated and talented surgeon, a rising star in trauma and orthopedics. October 23, 2015, and John and Lynette Rogers, a newlywed couple from Hollywood, Northern Ireland, were on honeymoon in South Africa. The newlyweds were beyond happy. At that point, they had been together for 6 beautiful years, and their honeymoon was supposed to be something they would never forget. 6 days after their wedding, John and Lynette Rogers found their ends together, in death as they were in life. Both John and Lynette were adventurers. John was a part-time reservist corporal in the Territorial Army who worked for an office supply company in Belfast. Lynette was a physiotherapist who enjoyed new experiences. As such, she had even planned to go cage diving with sharks on her honeymoon, but she never got to do it. That Saturday, the couple had been exploring Robberg Beach, a stretch renowned for its beauty and dangerous waters. Robberg Beach, part of the Robberg Nature Reserve, offers breathtaking views and opportunities to see seals, dolphins, and even whales during migration season. However, the area is also known for its strong currents and unpredictable waves, making it a place where caution is always advised. John and Lynette were strong swimmers, so getting in the water was not unusual. As such, they ventured into the sea, unaware of the tricky conditions. The surf was rough, and powerful rip currents swirled beneath the surface, a hidden danger to even the strongest swimmers. But something went wrong that afternoon. Soon enough, at about 5:30 p.m. on October 23, 2015, the couple found themselves struggling against the relentless force of the ocean. Even more, there was nobody else on the beach. The couple fought for their lives, but they were no match to the force of the waves. They lost. By the time a local man discovered John's body in the shallow surf around 6 p.m., it was too late. The National Sea Rescue Institute, NSRI, responded swiftly, but their efforts to revive him were in vain. 2 women found Lynette's body about 600 feet away along the same beach. Doctors attempted frantically to perform CPR, but it was too late. Lynette and John Rogers were both pronounced dead at the scene, merely 6 days after their wedding. The news of their untimely deaths left their friends and family in a state of disbelief, struggling to comprehend how such a beautiful occasion had turned into an unthinkable, beyond cruel tragedy. If anything, Lynette and John's family were somewhat comforted by the fact that Lynette and John's bodies had been found and returned to them. Strong rip currents and rough sea conditions were likely the cause of the drowning, according to the NSRI. No foul play is suspected. The police have filed an inquest docket to investigate the specifics of the couple's tragic demise and ensure that every detail of the incident is thoroughly examined.